Welcome to Shahnaz to the Private Practice Growth Club YouTube channel. And welcome you as my featured practice owner in this segment. And the reason I'm excited to have you is one, because you're a dentist, so that shows Private Practice Growth Club is not only for allied health professionals. And two, because you are a seasoned business owner and what I like to call a heart-centered entrepreneur. So this is somebody who really leads from the heart, who is, you know, your business principles are really based in ethical business principles, which I would like other health professionals to kind of learn, that you can be an ethical business person and make money, and that it is okay to make money as well. So welcome, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So we'll start off by you first introducing yourself, who you are, when you graduated, and when you started your first practice.
Okay, so I graduated in 1995 when dentistry was still a 5.5-year course, and we didn't have a community service. Immediately after qualifying, I got a work permit and I worked in the UK for 6.5 years. Got back here towards the end of 2001. My time in the UK was amazing because I got to travel and I got lots of clinical experience. I worked in the NHS, so we were churning out patients like on a conveyor belt system, really. And I mean, this is the best way to learn how to practice clinical dentistry well and fast, you know. So that's that type of experience I don't think I would ever gained anywhere else in the world, I think. And I also learned how to manage a big practice. My current practice, Kromboom Dental Center, which I have, is based on a practice that I worked in the UK. That was on my vision board, you know, and I achieved it, you know, because I really loved the business model there and how things were run so efficiently. So I started off by buying a practice in 2001, a small little dental practice, 50 square meters, 2 surgeries with myself and a hygienist. And I worked from 8 in the morning till 8 at night myself and did all the after hours calls. And I built up that practice from a small practice to now a 7 surgery practice with, with shifts 8 till 2 and 2 till 8. So we basically like running 12 to 14 surgeries in one day and fully booked every day. And people ask me how I do this, how I manage that. And I always think it's because when I started the little practice, I always, like you said, practice ethically, did everything by the book as much as I could. And I was there for my patients. We have found is a lot of my peers who had practices here, they'd have 5 or 6 little practices all over the place. I spend an hour here, 2 hours there, whereas I was in the practice 24 hours literally myself. So patients know they call the emergency number, I will answer, someone will see them, and that's how I built practice, because of reliability. People know, and that's how the word got around. No, they're always there. Someone will always help you, that type of thing. And from a small 2 surgery practice.
So I just want to go back. I just want to go back a little bit to thing you said, which I loved, which was that you had it on your vision board. And why I love this is because I drive this point a lot with my academy members and in the free Facebook group as well, that it's important that you start with a vision, or with a vision of what you are trying to achieve. Because I find that a lot of health professionals are going into practice just because they want to start a practice, but they have no sort of concept or vision of what it is that they are trying to build. So talk to me a little bit about that, your vision board, and then how that actually molds the decisions you made when you first started your practice.
Okay, so my vision board was this multi-centered practice. So when we bought the practice, the owner moved to the UK a week after I got there. And so I've literally only had a week to learn everything from him, and he basically used to barter with these patients, like, give me your practical and I'll do your fillings, that type of practice I had to go into. So when the patients came to me and wanted to fix my car for a crown, I'm like, oh, no, I don't barter, let me rather pay for your crown and I'll pay for my car. But again, on my vision board is, and with this practice, he sold us a house around the corner, which was his vision to eventually move to. So we rented out the house until I basically got the feel for the practice and until I think it was like I was in that practice for about 4 years. So we were filing on literally down the corridors because we didn't have filing space. And that's when I decided, no, we have to move because we need more filing room. That was basically the reason for moving. And then we built a double-story dental practice with 4 surgeries. And within 2 years, we extended and now to 6 surgeries. And then last year we added 7th surgery. So that just means, and the dentists who at the time, because we were working shifts either 8 till 2, 2 to 8, they kept asking, but where will the patients come from? I said, don't worry, if we build it and we have the availability, they will come, and we're fully booked most of the time, every single day. And it's all because of availability,
Yeah. But another thing that you then mentioned afterwards was that a lot of your peers were kind of, stretching themselves among different practices, and you decided to focus on your patient group and produce or generate a kind of loyalty among your patients.
Yes.
So this is also another thing that I speak a lot about, where I find a lot of, especially allied health professionals, tend to try to service a lot of different types of patients right from the start.
Yes.
Would you say as well that that's one of the things that contributed to your success, was that you focused on something, did it well, and then only moved on to the next thing?
And another thing is I treated every single patient the same way, whether they were a low-income patient or a high-income patient. They were all treated the same way. Medical aid rates is what I charged, and patients came from all over. We had people coming from Melkbosstrand and Kommetjie, and just all by word of mouth, and from all walks of life. And what I'm most proud of is that I built this practice in a non-white area. And I think it's all because of reputation, I think, and treating everybody the same way. And I never, ever committed fraud, medical aid fraud, where patients would come to us. And I had so many patients badmouth me because I wouldn't make a denture for them on their mother's name, their mother's medical aid and things like that, because I trained my receptionists from day one. When someone walks in and they have it as a request like that, tell them that's fraud. And that's the reason why our premiums are so high and why medical aids are not paying for a lot of those things, because this fraud has been committed for years. And I refuse to, and patients will guard their swearing, but Dr. So-and-so would do this for me, and, that type of thing. And I said, but, that's the way we operate, And I think that's the type of thing that people need to learn, is you don't have to fraud the medical aid to make money. I think it's wrong. And we are paying for it at the end of the day. Our medical aid premiums are going up, and we're getting less and less benefits. Our patients are getting less and less benefits because they've never factored in doing your mother's denture on your premiums, that type of thing.
So I'm glad you bring up the medical aids because am I remembering correctly, there was a point where you shifted from contracting out of medical aids? Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. What was the why did you make that decision, and what was the transition like, and all of that?
So I run a type of practice where I love to have all the modern gadgets, So if a new 3D scanner comes out, I want it. If there's an intraoral, camera there, I want it. I want my patients to have all the luxuries of, what other practices have, and we don't in our areas. And to do that, I need to get money, and I need to get my payments. And I realized that I was in the red for the entire time of my career. I've always been on overdraft because the money was always in the medical aid account or in the patient's account, but never in my account, And then when I decided to move software in 2016, so I obviously had to consolidate my accounts. I had so much money outstanding, I didn't even realize how much it was, And then I realized, no, besides the money outstanding, I've already paid the dentist for that work. I've already put materials into patients' mouths. So I'm actually more out of pocket than I actually thought I was. And then I had to make the hard decision of contracting out. And everybody was telling me, no, that's financial suicide. There's no way you're going to survive, especially in a practice like that. And make money at the end of the day. So what I decided to do, I tried to do it in phases. So I started a date. I said, 1st of September this year, every new patient that calls, tell them we contracted out. Okay. All patients, telling them by 1st of September next year, we're going to be contracted out. So get used to the idea. And by doing that, it happened. I promise you, the first month I was not in the red. The very first month, because the new patients that came knew they had to pay, and I did that. And then a lot of my patients said they'll come to me for the year, but after that they're going to find other dentists because there's no way they can pay up front and blah blah and blah blah. So I said, okay, unfortunately, I've had made this decision, and I can't go back on my work because to keep our doors open and to have the service that we provide for our patients, we can't do that without money. And if the money is laying in your account or in the medical aid account is not helping me, provide that service. And after the first year, we lost a lot of our patients. I must say, alhamdulillah, the patients, 90% of our patients are back because they went out to me and they never got the service anywhere else than what they get with us. Our opening hours, the materials we use, the equipment that we use, and And that's what I wanted. I wanted to get out of this mold of being in a non-white area where you have these plastic benches where your patients have to sit on, and you don't change your equipment, you don't upgrade your chairs. You look the same as what you opened up 20 years ago. You have to grow, and you have to, upgrade with the times. And that's something I think is lacking. And it doesn't matter what type of patient you have,
So give everybody a premium service, no matter who they
exactly.
are and which area you are in. Yeah. So I also I wanted to because obviously not all practices have the same level scale of expenses, like in terms of equipment as maybe a dentist does. But there's an important concept that you've mentioned there, where you might be a profitable practice, but you might still be in the red because in terms of cash flow, because you have so much outstanding payments. Now, I see a lot in the Facebook groups and that, where people are looking for a better solution to get money in, but they're so hesitant to pay a billing administrator or sign up to a software because of the money they're going to pay out, not seeing the bigger picture that it's money that you didn't have anyway. At least, well, what do they say? 0% of 20% of nothing is still nothing.
Yes.
So what is your advice on that to other health professionals when they are kind of being a little bit stingy about the money that they need to pay somebody in order to get their money? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you shouldn't be penny wise, pound foolish. I mean, you really do need help to get that money in. If you're not going to get the help, you're not going to get the money in. So in my case, when I actually realized how much money we had to write off, I really fell on my back. Seriously, I was like, what were we working for?
Yeah.
And then I could have bought so much nice equipment with that money, but I literally had to write it off. And what I find is with medical aids is they actually try to hold us hostage. There's something I'd like to send you, which I'll send you on WhatsApp again. It's an analogy between I don't know if you read it, a medical aid and a restaurant. And it's so beautifully written, and it just explains that, you spend so much money on you charge so much and you get so little. At the end of the day, the medical aid short pays you for one code that you wrote about 6 motivational letters for. I had to employ 2 accounts people to do our accounts. And now that we contracted out, I didn't have to pay extra staff. I'm always I'm never in the red, and I can buy all this fancy equipment that we need, and I can upgrade, and I can give my patients a much better service. That patients at the end of the day appreciate that, and they can see it and they can feel it. They can feel the value. So don't be scared. Really don't be scared to just be bold about it, because I mean, in my experience, everybody told me I'm shooting myself in the foot, but alhamdulillah, I've never looked back.
Thank you so much for that advice. I think it's really great advice, especially about not being worried about spending the money if you know that it's going to guarantee that money comes in. It also enables you to plan better financially, because now you have a certain amount that's in the bank. Okay. So what I want to just move on to now is that with COVID that has happened last year, it brought about some changes, and you actually decided to pivot your business completely. So after how many years was this that you were in the previous practice, and what was the change that you made?
Okay, so I was nearly 20 years. And with COVID, I realized that if your hand is not in the patient's mouth, you're actually not making any money. So when we closed for that month, it was like zero income. The bank balance was, okay, that's the first time I was in the red again after all these years. Within 1 month, I was in the red after paying all my expenses again and not earning an income. So I realized, and at the moment, during that time, I was going through my own journey of holistic health and integrative medicine, and I found my niche in dentistry. So there's everything to do with integrative dentistry has got to do with nasal breathing and getting your patient healthy. Looking for tongue ties, all the things we weren't taught. I started this journey with my own daughter who relapsed from orthodontics. Like the day we took out the braces, the teeth started moving, and I was trying to investigate why. And then I found out that she had a tongue tie, she was nose breathing, she has reverse swallow, and that's something we never been taught in dentistry. When I spoke to other health practitioners about it, nobody knew about this. And then it brought me on to the Maya brace system, which is interceptive on orthodontics. And I am so passionate about that. But the thing is, I didn't have the time to do all of that and run a big practice. And I've got another small practice as well. And when in doing this, the Maya brace course, they started doing, with COVID, they started doing online consultations with patients. And so had I done this 3 years ago, I would have had a passive, an income, because a lot of the training and the exercises with the patients are actually done online. So we like OTs with the mouth, basically. It's called facial myofunctional therapist. So therapy, and with that we've got little devices called MyEbrace appliances. So so that's my vision, and that's my aim, that's my new goal. It's on my vision board now. And and to do that, I sold the clinical part of Kromboom Dental Center. I kept one surgery to do this integrative dentistry in. So we've got a sleep and airway clinic. We can do sleep studies. It's a whole new world, really, and I'm so excited about it.
So what was it like you said it was 20 years that you had the other practice. So tell me about the mental shift or the mindset preparation of letting go of something which is essentially like your child that you raised into a 20-year-old and now he's fleeing the nest. So tell me a bit about that, like the emotional part of letting go of the practice.
Surprisingly, it wasn't as emotional for me as it was for my husband. For me, I just wanted to leave my baby at the fire station and run, because I was so excited about this new venture, but my husband took it a lot harder because he was actually managing the practice in the last 2 years. So, and I knew it was time to let go. And the dentist that took over is one of the best dentists at our practice. And and he's married to a dentist. And I knew that they take good care of my baby, my baby in good hands, have a nice, fresh new approach, And I think it needed that, because after 20 years, I did start to stagnate, and it's with staff issues, and 25 staff is enough.
It's a lot. Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up, because firstly, not everybody's as lucky to find somebody who actually they love, who works at the practice, to now buy the practice. So what tips can you share in terms of that whole process of when you decide to sell your practice? What are the kinds of things that you would say people need to be wary of, and make sure they have the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and that kind of thing?
So I think it's important also, if you look at this is the practice Kromboom Dental Center. This is the brand. So this is one thing that I didn't, which I should have tried and keep the brand. They did keep the name, but they're changing logos and things like that. And that's the one part I would have probably left in my contract, because the brand is already out there. People already know the brand, the color of the building, so now that they've taken over, they've actually changed everything, like the color of the building, and I understand that they want to make it their own, but this, whatever I developed over the 20 years is what I put, market research into, there was a reason behind the madness. Like you can see this little mirror. So, which to me is a sign of prevention, doing checkups and things like that. And if you look at every other dentist logo, every single dentist has got a tooth. And a tooth,
or an apple.
Yeah, or an apple. And to me, if you look at a tooth with the root, it actually means an extracted tooth, and that's not a healthy tooth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So there's things like that. So that is part of it that I wanted to hold on to, and I should have put it in the contract, because if in the game, because we still own the building, they bought the practice and obviously the patients and everything else. If they decided to move one day or sell one day, it means I still got the building and the logo and everything else. It's my proprietary information, that type of thing. So
yeah.
So
then you also mentioned having so many staff, which is like, it's like having a retail business. Some shops don't even have that many staff. And this is something that comes up a lot in the groups as well, around hiring and, ethics of employment ethics and paying your staff and all of these things. What has been for you the biggest lessons, not only in the process of hiring good people, but also becoming a boss and becoming a leader? Because I think a lot of health professionals, even unless you've worked in government and then worked yourself up to a chief therapist, where you have lots of therapists under you, you won't have that experience of managing people. And it's a whole different board game. We're not taught those skills in varsity. So what are your advice on those issues?
When I came back from the UK, just a small practice, myself, the hygienist, and then one receptionist and one assistant. So it's 4 of us. And I must say, managing the staff in a small practice is the same as managing staff in a big practice. Yeah, the same issues. So whether you have one staff member, you're still going to have to get all your ducks in a row. Litigation is rife nowadays. The best advice I can give people is to join an organization like I have, LWO. They a labor organization, and they charge you a monthly fee, and they will give you all your contracts, they'll give you all your posters, whatever you need to be compliant in the workplace. And if you have any questions, if someone someone steals, you phone them up. What do I do? They'll give you the proper process to follow, which I didn't have in the beginning. I basically had to Google everything and try and do everything on my own. And when I found this organization, it is not expensive. It's like 200, 300 Rand a month. The best money you've ever seen. The first, you pay like 2,000 in the beginning just to get the CD with all the information and then all the posters. But you know that you've got professional legal advice and someone to do that. If someone decides to take you to the CCMA, which happens all the time. I've been taken to the CCMA so much that I don't even
I mean, your domestic worker I had a domestic worker that took me to the CCMA. So it's like, it's not, nobody's immune to that. Yeah. And I think like, I think what a lot of people, most therapists wouldn't know about that you get an organization like that. And I think also we tend to have too much of a focus on the HPCS guidelines. And we forget that the HPCSA guidelines is more to guide the profession in terms of what's best for the patient. They always say that their scope is not to do with employment issues. They can give general guidelines, but they can't actually give you legal advice because that is to do with the country's employment laws. So actually you need somebody who's a specialist employment specialist to give you that kind of advice.
Could you sleep better at night knowing that I had these people behind me? Because I've been taken to the CCMS so many times. It's unreal. And I actually enjoy going because I learn every time I go, and the commissioners are actually fair,
they are.
And they'll say, they can tell a bullshit a mile away. So they will just sit there, and when I leave, they always give me advice, like in future do this, do that, and that type of thing. And I take notes and I understand and I learn and I implement it the next time. So it's not like I just got everything as a learning experience, a growing experience. And I used to love going, and I used to love seeing all different commissioners. And I must say most of our outcomes were successful just because that we had, we followed due process, because I know I've got LWO in my back pocket. So
now another big polarizing topic is around remuneration. Now obviously I know it's different depending on the profession because the way you charge and everything is different, but I'm speaking now more from the allied health professions, so it might be very different in dentistry, but there's a lot of, you can understand, especially now with COVID, there's a lot of fear around employing people as employees and then paying them a fixed salary with the benefits. And it's a resounding trend in allied health professionals to pay on a commission basis. And some people pay sliding scale. And what are your thoughts on that? Like, not from a ethical point of view, that's a whole other story because there aren't really that clear guidelines on it, but more from a business point of view, from a business strategy point of view. What is your thoughts on the best way to manage remuneration or to set your structures, especially when you're just starting out and you don't have like a lot of capital?
So I think commission is fair, especially on the dentists, but also I try not to encourage them. And I know a lot of dentists who works at other practices, they will say they have a target. So dentists will tell them, like, I don't believe in sliding scales because that will make them over-treat patients, because now I have to reach that target so I can make more money. So let me, instead of doing a filling, I'll do a crown, So I try to treat my patients conservatively, because every time you touch that tooth, you're weakening that tooth, and I explain that to them. So if I can get away with the filling, we'll do that. You know what I mean? We won't necessarily just cut a crown on every tooth, which I know a lot of dentists will come, they'll boast and like, oh, I cut 50 crowns a month, and how many you cut? And I mean, no, big practice that we have, we don't even do 10. If that is, our crown and bridge bill is so low, and they're like, how can it be so low? It's just because I don't believe in over-treating patients. And also I know every time you touch a tooth, you weaken it. So if you're going to play on a sliding scale, there's going to be people who are going to over-treat, So I set a commission, a percentage, minus my VAT, minus my lab bill, and that's it. So the dentists also have their own free reign of when they work, when they want to work. We have shifts 8 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon, 2 till 8. As long as my shifts are covered, if they have to arrange between themselves, that there's always someone in that surgery during a shift. So yeah.
So do you almost treat them almost like independent contractors?
Contractors, yeah, and they
Okay,
have
so
independent contract as well.
okay, so you see, because that is the difference that I'm finding, and I'm finding that like I think when you're starting out, say as an OT, if I had a practice, if I was starting out, I wouldn't immediately go for like the locum model. I would rather then go for an independent contract, like set up the contract like an independent contract. That way you don't have to take the risk of the basic conditions of employment, and you can then charge that commission without worrying about, because then they and that also frees up your employee to go and work at other practices, because they're now not your employee. They can, and they're almost like a practice on their own, but they
And that is why
contracting out to your practice.
DHF has got a group practice now that you have to have. If there's 2 or more people working locums in your practice, you have to have a practice number. So we've got a group practice number, and then we all, including myself, work under the group. So they basically need that for medical aid stats as well, because it looks like if I just had my own personal practice number, which I had for years, it looked like I was treating 200 patients a day, which wasn't really. It wasn't me. It was a lot of dentists.
Which wasn't realistic.
So now with the group practice, I think is nice, because then you can see exactly the stats of what each dentist produces, for medical aids as well as for us. So I think that is a very good model to have, is to have a group practice number if you're going to employ more into.
And then another thing I want to touch on was, you mentioned about how you still own the building even though you sold the practice. And I think this is also something that a lot of practice owners don't kind of think outside of the box of the practice, and how they can actually grow their practice into an asset. So Dion Burrs from Profnet, he always talks about how when you start your practice, you must already think about what your exit strategy is going to be. And but growing an asset would be, for example, if maybe initially you have to rent space because you can only afford to rent space. But if you grow your capital to a point where you can now afford to take out a mortgage on the building, it's a good investment to actually own the building you're in, because then you can own that asset even if you eventually leave the practice. Or so was that a strategic decision that you made, to kind of own the assets of the building, knowing that in future you could still reap the benefits of it?
Definitely, because my husband and I are into property, so we buy property as well. So we pivot one property of another. So we always knew we were going to keep that building, and as it increased in value, we can buy another property. We mortgage, which is what we've done now, and we bought another property. So so it's always good to own the building that you're in. I mean, you're paying a rent anyway. You might as well pay it towards the mortgage at the end of the day, whether it's a commercial building or whether it's residential building that it's always good to own at the end of the day. And same with practice in Newlands. When that practice came up, I didn't even see the practice. When the guy told me it's 24-hour practice, the reason why I'm contacting you is because I don't think anybody else can handle it, because you're the only person is in Cape Town that does a 24-hour service. I didn't even look at it. He just gave me the price. I already knew what the values of property was in that area. And he had actually 5 units at the back of the building, which was renting out to students. And that already covered the bond, so a no-brainer, really. And when I got there, it was a terrible practice, but I had to actually refurbish the whole thing. But it's still worth it, because the increase in value and the rental income we're getting from that. So you have to think out the box also.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, because that's actually the next thing I want to do. End off with we spoke about selling your practice. Now, on the flip side, if you're buying a practice, what are the things you need to look out for? And I know that again, I'm going to refer to Dion Burrs from Profnet. He often speaks about like valuation of a practice, and a lot of people put value on things that are intangible. Whereas, like you saying, you immediately thought, no, you're going to buy it, because even if the practice is terrible, the property is what is the asset that you are buying into. So if you are buying a practice, what are the kinds of things that one should look out for to know whether the asking price that they're asking for this practice is worth? Because I think there's a lot of people that shoot themselves in the foot and invest in a practice thinking this is the value of the practice, and then they buy a practice and they really struggling, because actually the person left with the value of the person was the value and not the practice itself.
So now this is a typical example where that is the case. Okay, so purchase price, okay, I agreed to the purchase price, and the only reason why I did is because I knew the rental income will cover the bond payments. But he also promised me the patients. And when he left, he didn't leave a single folder. And had I not had the rental income at the back, because I basically ended up being a squat practice, you know. So it's, and when I went to the lawyers and I said, but the man promised me, I've got the emails here, and he sort of implied in the emails that I would be getting the patient base, you know. But because we wanted to carry the sale, we had the sale as of the building, not of the practice, and that was a mistake I made. So whatever you do, if you buy a building, you know, make sure that it's not just a commercial sale. Make sure that it's a business sale with you know, with stipulations of what you're getting out of it, whether it's a chair, whether it's an autoclave, whether it's a patient base, you know, have it all stipulated there, you know, because the only thing he left was the chair and the autoclave and nothing else. And, everything, even the patient base with him. So and because, and then I realized over the years, I mean, I've only been there for 2 years, is that he was an emergency practice. So patients never came back to follow-up treatment. And, you know, my model is I want prevention, I want follow-up, I want to be a fair practice, I want people coming back, you know, which is a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am practice, you know, see you for your emergency, charge your fortune, and then the next one. So the patient base wouldn't have been of value to me anyway. Because that's not the type of practice that I wanted to build anyway. So it took us 2 years. And alhamdulillah, I must say we are getting there slowly. I can actually compare to the turnover of the big practice. And I must say, you mustn't be shy to charge. You know, a lot of people telling me, oh my God, you're charging that for an extraction, which was 750 Rand for an extraction. If you want an X-ray, it's extra. You know, and they're like, oh my God, and they're charging 120 Rand, you know. And I'm saying, but you must never undervalue yourself. You know, even at the other practice, we do not charge 100 Rand for an extraction, you know, because I think your material cost is even more than that. You know, and when you're still paying staff, and then it's chair time, you have to factor in all of that. And I always say is, if you value yourself, your patients will see the value and they'll pay.
So can I just let's to just end off on that point. What words would you give to, there's so many health professionals who feel guilty that they want to make a profit, like they know they have to earn a living, but the minute they think, oh, they're making a profit of their patients, then they feel guilty because it's that whole altruistic like feeling like if they're in the health profession, they need to be Mother Teresa's. And this is especially like, you know, with OTs especially, this is a huge problem. So what words of encouragement can you give to those people to let them know that it's okay to be profitable?
Well, I think you can have the best of both worlds. You can be profitable and you can be ethical and you can be good to your patients. You know, as long as you have all those principles in place, you know, and you'll reap the benefits. You know, so you don't limit yourself to, if you make money, I mean, when I make money, I invest it back into the practice. You know, I buy more equipment. I think that's going to add value to my patients. Whereas when I first came back from South Africa, I noticed that all my, you know, the people, the dentists out there would have the fanciest cars, and you go to their practices and the patients are sitting on garden chairs, you know. And I had the opposite, you know, completely the opposite model. I bought a house and I was literally, I had tape around where my furniture was going to be until I actually had enough money to actually start buying furniture. Whatever money I made, I invested back in the practice. You know, I was driving my brother-in-law's car for 2 years, and one day he asked, "Oh, I'm going to buy my car," or because I didn't even think of buying a car because I just didn't want to invest money in myself, because I was of the you know, notion is that I didn't want to make money. But in the process, is because I invested back into my business. That is why my business flourished. And then everything else came afterwards, you know. I could furnish my house, I could renovate my house, I could renovate a big practice, and it all came. I think it's all got to do with how you treat patients. You know, if you do things ethically and morally in the right way. And there's also one thing that I like to emphasize to all health professionals, which I learned from my practice owner in the UK. He was saying, never ever badmouth a fellow practitioner. You know, he says you never know if the type of work I mean, you might think you're doing the best work, but one day you have an off day, you've got a headache, or the patient's tongue is all over the place, and you can't do this, you know, the work that you're proud of. Even another dentist looks in the mouth and says, "Oh my God, that's Dr. Khan does such crap work," but not knowing that everything else you do right, but you don't know the circumstance under which you did it at that time. You know, so he says, but so never judge anybody else. You do not know that. And when I got back to South Africa, I realized that I was the only one doing that because I would have patients come to me and say, "Oh, I went to Dr. So-and-so and he was telling me you did this and that and you did this and that and your filling is like this." And I'm like, but I never said anything about his work, you know, and I still did it, you know, and I just accepted. And I phoned SADA, South African Dental Association. I asked him, what do I do in cases like this? You know, they said that, you know, they'll even say when they see a patient of mine and they'll say, you need a cleaning, and they say, but the hygienist just did this cleaning at Dr. Khan's rooms. Oh no, but you still got plaque in your mouth, and they'll say, I mean, everybody gets plaque within 24 hours. You know, and you know they use that to, and the patients will come ask for refunds and things like that. And they were saying, unfortunately, you know, it's going to be your word against the other dentist's word. So what I say, immediately when dentists started bad-mouthing me, I started making folders of work that I've seen in their mouths, not carrying the patients. You know, so I'd see something and sort of fold about Dr. So-and-so, Dr. So-and-so. And when people came to me with these complaints, I'd go to Dr. So-and-so with my folder, you know, and say, this is the work I see in your patient's mouth. I did not mention it to your patient, but one more word of slander about my work, this will be going to the council.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I got them all to stop.
So you kind of dealt with it head on, like direct to the source rather than going around. Because I think people are afraid of confrontation. So the immediate reaction is to go to, you know, around the source. But if you go directly, people don't expect that. So I suppose that's a good way of tackling it. Calling people out.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, it happens so much in our communities. And you know, and I always said I have an open door, and I think everybody should try and be the same. That's why I love Private Practice Growth Club. I started my own business owner group with dentists, because we want to spread the love. We want to share what we know, because I don't want people to go through the same mistakes I made. You know, if someone needs a box of gloves, a dentist down the road, come to me, borrow a box of gloves, feel free, and we do that. You know, and other dentists, they would be even, once they see a patient of yours, they'll slander you immediately just to win the patient over. You know, that type of thing. And which I think is so wrong. There's enough patients for everyone. You know,
I always say, unfortunately, health professions are still very much fixed in a scarcity mindset, when really there is enough for everyone.
It's also what you put out there, you know. So I always feel what you give, you get. So if you help someone else, I mean, patients are going to, and those same dentists will help. They will refer patients to me. If they're busy, they'll go to Dr. Khan down the road, because they know. I mean, I'm not going to steal their patients. I mean, we have our so many dentists actually have our number on as the emergency after hours number. You know, on their answer phones, because they feel confident enough, and they learned over the years that we don't poach their patients. We do the emergency treatment and we send them back. And then that's the relationship you're supposed to have with your peers, you know.
To all work together for the good of the patient at the end of the day.
Exactly. And that's why I love what I'm doing now, because it's a multidisciplinary approach. It involves OTs, craniosacral therapists, chiropractors, ENTs, you know, everybody working together for the holistic health of a patient, you know. So
that's amazing.
So watch the space. In 3 years' time, we're going to have my-based practice. And we will practice.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Shahnaz. I think what I'd like for you to share last is your practice details. So where can people find your practice, or get in touch or find you, or what your socials are?
So we Kromboom Dental Center. So it's www.kromboomdental.co.za. And Paradise Road Dental Practice is www.paradisedental.co.za. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, you name it, we on. And
that's one thing that we didn't really get into because we've run out of time. But that's definitely something that I will encourage. I'll put all your links in the description notes below the video.
Yeah, we also
because that's one thing I admire about you, is that you're always willing to embrace also new marketing. And most health professions I come across, they're so petrified of new technology or social media, and you always embrace it. So I'm going to encourage everybody who's watching this video to go and follow you on all the different platforms that I will link below, so that they can see like what you do and how you actually just put yourself out there, because I think that has probably contributed a lot as well to your growth, and in terms of people knowing who you are and things like that. So
Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to seeing the growth of Private Growth Club, because it's something that's really needed. And I mean, hats off to you, and thanks to you, Tasneem, because I learn so much from you every day. And we need a platform like this to be able to share our knowledge, you know. And there's something that I didn't have, and I'm sure you didn't have when you started out, and it's such a godsend, you know. So thank you for all you do, and I'm sure everybody else appreciates it.